I imagine, let's say 10 years down the line, almost be it would almost be unethical to not be using AI and technology in your practice when everyone else is. So I definitely think with time, this will be adopted more ubiquitously than it is now.
You're listening to the Legal Mastermind podcast with your hosts Ryan Klein and Chase Williams, the go-to podcast for learning from the experts in the legal community about effective ways to grow and manage your law firm.
Today in the Legal Mastermind podcast, we have Kwasi Bowman. He is the Director of Account Management at Gavelytics. Welcome to the Legal Mastermind.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks so much. And today I'm here with my co-host, Ryan Klein, and today we're going to talk about legal analytics and AI. And I know your company are masters at handling on this, building out a system to manage all this. So can you give us a little background about what your company actually does and what you do at the company?
Yeah, so Gavelytics does state trial court analytics, pretty much meaning we're going through records from state courts, dockets, rulings, briefs, and extracting information to give litigators information as far as how judges behave. So how long do they take to go to trial? Do they grant a certain motion? Does this county as a whole have a proclivity for this motion or not? So giving folks real actionable insights that they can craft a litigation strategy around. My role as the Director of Account Management is to take care of our current clients, make sure everyone knows how to use the technology, make sure all the teams that can benefit from it because, it starts with litigators, but there are uses for marketers and everyone else. So I want to make sure that everyone's maximizing the use of the product as well. And then internally, I do some coordination across our teams to make sure that we're organized and releasing counties at a pretty steady cadence.
And then as far as this information, is it all kinds of cases or court cases? Is it pertaining to certain practice areas? Is it only in California? Where are you at right now?
Yes.
What's this information?
So we cover unlimited civil judges. We started in California. The situation with the state courts is a mess. And that's why it kind of goes state by state and county by county. Every different county in the United States gets to keep their own records as far as the court system is concerned. And so that means that there are 3,000 different formats that we have to teach our AI to read. And that's why we have to go county by county. It goes very slowly depending on what information is available in the dockets. There are, problems. There's variability in the amount of information that's recorded depending on who's working on Tuesday versus Thursday. It's crazy. It's the Wild Wild West. And so currently we have coverage in California, Florida, Nevada, and we're just starting in New York and Texas as well.
And how do you think Gavelytics is going to change as the AI gets more sophisticated? And, the whole point of it is making lawyers and legal assistants' lives easier. Mm-hmm. Where do you see the software going?
Yeah, well, I first of all think we're going to apply it to larger data sets. So first of all, in state court, at least, there's not many products that do what we do. There's a large portfolio of products that do what we do in the federal space, just because all the federal courts use one document system. And so they can run it all through one machine and you have a product for the entire country. No one really wants to do the labor intensive work that we're doing. So it's been kind of slow on the uptake on this end. In that regard, we're giving folks access to something that they never had before, and allowing folks to make informed decisions now. As far as where things are going, we want to apply our technology and our methodology to different sorts of data sets so that we can pull out more information. So we started with just judges, just giving you information as far as, does this judge grant this motion as a general rule? Do they grant it in employment cases? Is it affected when a plaintiff files this motion versus the defendant? That's all well and good, but there's a ton more information in legal records that we can be taking advantage of, as far as how often different law firms are appearing, how often different litigates are appearing with different law firms, who's representing who's representing my client. I want to take, all of this book of business from this other law firm who I'm competing with. So by analyzing all these different kinds of records, we can start to make insights that are applicable outside of just litigation and can go a little bit further. So yeah, that's where I see things going. It just allows us to use real data to make decisions instead of gut feelings and anecdotes.
So it seems pretty cool because, it sounds like lawyers could even pitch to their clients, oh, yeah. Hey, come with me because I know how this judge is going to rule in this case.
100%. People are doing that already. you have folks who copy and paste Gavelytics widgets and put them into their pitch decks, because it just demonstrates that you have, insider knowledge and it's actual data. It's one thing to say, we've been around for, our law firm is hundreds of years old and we know all the judges. I mean, there's something to be said for that, but there's also something to be said for having concrete data that you're making decisions with. As the world evolves, folks really care about making data-driven decisions, and Gavelytics is a foundation for that.
Yeah, it's nice. I wish this was open to the public rather than relying on Yelp or Google reviews to get insight about past cases or experience.
Yeah, I mean, our CEO really touts this story quite often as far as why he started Gavelytics and kind of the current paradigm of judge research. He would tell me, I'm not a lawyer, just for background, so I don't know. In fact, when I joined the organization and saw like how the legal industry kind of operates, it was kind of shocking to me. And exactly for this story that I'm going to tell you, like he told me, let's say you're going to appear in court and you wanted to get information about Judge Jake. You'd send an email to the company listserv and ask around who's appeared before Judge Jake, and that was the extent of judicial research. We're making decisions as far as what motions we should file, where we should actually file a law case in a lawsuit in the first place, based on anecdotes. And to me, that's mind-boggling. I have a science background. I think data is foundation of everything. So yeah, it's definitely changing the game as far as how we're doing this research, and doing it from a place that's founded on data.
So we haven't really talked to too many people, and when I say too many people, I actually mean almost nobody in the past about AI and analytics, as far as it pertains or can help law firms make decisions about putting together cases or how to litigate or how to approach certain cases and everything in between. So when lawyers are engaging in AI and assisting with making decisions, is it helping them more so know like when or how to litigate, or is it helping them kind of reconstruct or evaluate the case that they're putting together itself?
Yeah, I would go with the latter. I'm not going to say that, you should 100% defer to the things you're going to see in Gavelytics. Every case is different. And, it's a supporting tool for a litigator, I believe. So if a judge doesn't grant, this sort of motion in 50% of the cases that they've seen, that might inform your choices going forward. That's not to say that you shouldn't file the motion. Maybe your case is different, but it's definitely something you want to be aware of. And that's all I really think that it should be doing, is really to just give you the most information to make the best decisions. Making decisions from places of less information, as far as I'm concerned, isn't the ideal. And so just arming folks with more information is always better, as far as I can think.
This kind of reminds me of, I'm almost done reading one of the most fantastic nonfiction books I've ever read in my life, called Thinking Fast and Slow.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
And
yes.
comment. Yeah. Do you know what I'm going to say next?
I don't know.
So there were a bunch of judges that were granting or denying parole.
Uh-huh.
And they're going through all the cases, and they said that a lot of the times they were basing it not even off the content or the context of the crime or how long they've been in jail or what even the plea was or anything. It was a lot of times based off of if it was close to lunchtime or not.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like insane, but they just found it. So a lot of these things, I think my point is we're quantifying things that we think are psychological or have a lot of variables that aren't within the grasp, but still AI and analytics is able to come away with valuable information that, regardless of, I guess, what the disposition of a judge or whoever they're litigating with would typically be, it still is quantifiable in almost every scenario.
So we're not doing those sorts of research relationships. I know there's a relationship between, I think I heard one similar to yours, where this one was a little bit more dark, but a judge will have harsher sentences on a Monday after their football team lost on Sunday. We're not drawing those kinds of correlations. But I do think that, Gavelytics is a starting place for your research, right? So let's say you want to file a certain motion, you look at our motion analytics and you see that they don't grant this motion typically for plaintiffs. Well, look at those cases then. We'll give you those case numbers so you can actually start that investigation and do a little bit more in-depth research. What we want to do is make things a lot more effective and efficient for people. So instead of having to chase this down in Google, you at least have a starting point that you can go off of just from, checking out a judge's profile in Gavelytics. So we don't want to, use AI to draw correlations that don't really matter for most folks, right? You want to make it actionable, make it something that's useful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So what other forms of AI out there interest you?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the technologist. So I handle people. I really think that it's important though that this data can be drawn from, records that are handwritten and just pretty much digitizing information. I don't think that really has to do with AI, but being able to pull insights from things that are written by hand, I think is important because there is just a plethora of dark rooms in courthouses that are filled with filing cabinets, and all that information is lost to all of us. So I think the work of putting that on the internet so that we can't even run it through artificial intelligence systems is important work. Now, I'm sure that's not the most satisfying answer. Again, I'm not the technologist, so sorry about that.
It's really interesting how already like pre-formulated algorithms can do so much or contribute so much to decisions and projections that law firms can rely on. And one example that I can give is when I was working in-house for a personal injury law firm about 5-6 years ago, and I was also in graduate school for computer science, and they had all these preloaded algorithms that were supposed to predict outcomes for different things. And so what I did was I gathered up a bunch of cases that had already happened for the personal injury law firm, and it included like the age, the kind of accident, what the value was, what the offer was initially. Mm-hmm. And I input this all into like a preloaded algorithm. I'm not sure what programming language it was, but basically I upload all this information, and then the law firm, I said, hey, now give me the most recent case. Just give me the facts. Don't give me the settlement, but give me like all the facts. I'm going to upload it and see, and I'm going to predict how much it settled for. Mm-hmm. And then they did, and then it was within like 2% of what actually settled for. So it's just interesting how this technology is utilized in plenty of industries, and a lot of things can be applied to plenty of different practices. So do you see people using it also for, projections or outcomes as well? And is that kind of information relayed to clients as far as you know?
Yeah. So one way that we were kind of doing like predictive sort of analytics was trying to predict in California, either side of a lawsuit gets to challenge the judge and get them removed pursuant to Civil Code 170.6. And so we're trying to predict, in situations where a judge is 170.6 or papered, where do those cases go next? Which judges it assign to next? So I definitely think that folks are trying to use that sort of leverage that sort of information because it really does distinguish a choice for you. And if you can predict which way it's going to go, how to structure your strategy, I suppose. So for example, in this situation, if it's predicted that the case will get passed to a judge who's even worse for your case than the one you already assigned, then you shouldn't paper the judge. So I definitely think there's value in that sort of information, especially if there's high accuracy. But with the law, it's all up in the air kind of. So
my next question that I'm interested in now, like what are your typical law firms that are using AI and analytics right now?
I definitely think there's a concentration in larger law firms, and smaller shops are not picking up on the changes as largely or as quickly. That there's obviously reasons for that, like services are expensive, and a smaller shop can't really spare that expense. But there are smaller firms who are picking this up as well. I talked to groups of individual lawyers who are leveraging this technology as well. Kind of the deal with the law is, you have to have the drop on your competitor, right? So if your competitor is using a tool like this, then you have to use it as well. So I do think that slowly and surely, like more folks will be adopting newer technologies and things of that nature, especially since it's becoming a core competency for the profession. I imagine, let's say 10 years down the line, it would almost be unethical to not be using AI and technology in your practice when everyone else is. So I definitely think with time, this will be adopted more ubiquitously than it is now.
Yeah, I know that when it comes to like some natural language selection or generation, NLG and big data. Yeah, like sometimes that information and getting that going could cost who knows how much.
Yeah.
depending on the industry. So I'm just wondering, because like I know that like people listening that might run like smaller firms but could see the value on adjusting their projections and their litigation projections or anticipation, and how they manage their cases and what they do could be extremely valuable. But I don't know if it could be offset by how much something like this might cost as far as resources. So I'm not sure if you have to kind of go all in when it comes to like AI, like if like, oh, we're doing AI, we have to go like go big or go home, or there's like ways to utilize some aspects to it that kind of serve them on a more micro level.
Well, I guess it depends on what that micro level is. I'm sure you can, use whatever data you have available to you. I'm sure these firms have all sorts of data points internally, if anything, that they can be leveraging. But I mean, right now where things are, you need a lot of support to kind of build these things and leverage them effectively, I think. Now, there are different companies that will take your data and be able to visualize things for you and whatnot. And I think that's valuable for a smaller shop at this point. But as far as building large predictive models and things of that nature, I don't exactly see that being like effective as far as the prices are concerned for smaller shops. Not now. I mean, as things develop, I'm sure it'll become more accessible.
And then on previous podcasts, we've only heard this a couple of times, and I'm sure people were talking about law firms with possibly hundreds, if not thousands of lawyers, but we've heard people drop the line data scientist as an in-house person. So this is pretty much like in line with what that data scientist is probably doing in-house for a law firm.
Yeah, exactly. A data scientist is going and looking at all the internal data points that they have and, just constructing different ways to look at that data and see what that data can mean for the firm. There are a lot of firms, like you mentioned, who are bringing data scientists in-house to build all sorts of different models and things of that nature. I definitely see that being a trend. But like you said, data scientists are expensive. So everyone can't do that. And those guys are really specialized and they have a very special skill set. And to deal with the amount of data that is produced from the multinational law firms, you definitely need someone who's really sophisticated to handle all of that in an effective way.
And then this kind of leads me into, I don't know, we're going to go to a rabbit hole or anything, but being that you have analytics and you have AI and you have these processes that are doing really next level stuff with data. Mm-hmm. What's your take on like AI being able to take this data and then take just general information or database information about the law itself, and then AI actually making the right decisions about law or assembling legal cases itself with the data as well? Like, can this kind of information, this kind of AI that's being built, also possibly make decisions better than a lawyer can?
I don't know. I think personally for me, like ethically, I don't know that, it's a little bit too early to hand off the practice of law to the computers. I know there are a lot of tools that, draft complaints and do things like that when you just input some information and they'll draft up legal documentation for you. And I think that's nice. It makes the law a little bit more accessible to folks. But I do think for now, as far as where our society has progressed, there needs to be some human oversight of any sort of AI tools that are hinging on practicing the law by themselves. Maybe in the future, I don't know if that will be in my lifetime, but definitely not something I see now. There are situations where AI exceeds human capability, and there's a conversation to be had around that, but I don't know that things are there right now.
Okay, so not in this lifetime, not the giant overlord mainframe on the penthouse.
I don't
suite.
know either. So AI could be progressed way further than I can even be conceptualizing right now. So maybe, but I'm not privy to it.
Yeah, look, I know that lawyers don't want to hear that part of it, but AI is getting quite sophisticated, especially if you're able to gather up a lot of data and make a lot of decisions that are void of emotion or preference.
For sure. There's a value in that, but I think, at the same time, a lawsuit is a human thing. It's a disagreement between humans, and I don't think that the human touch can be lost in this regard. And as far as lawyering is concerned, so I do think that attorneys, their careers are safe for a while because of that very real element. You choose to hire a lawyer and you choose to hire them because you feel comfortable with them, or you feel like they're the best to handle your case. There's a human element to that decision. I study neuroscience. Maybe I can dive into this. Like, you can't form that connection with a computer the way you can with a human being, that sort of credibility. And so I do think that fact by itself, the fact that humans like to interact with other humans, will keep the profession alive for a while longer. I don't see the overlords completely replacing lawyers by any means anytime soon.
Thanks for that feedback there. To sum up everything, like all this, the value of looking into analytics and AI, can you think of anything like maybe recent where someone came to you, were interested in what you had to do, and then you implemented, a project where X happened and then it changed, how they conduct their business?
Yeah, 100%. So we do that for all of our clients. Gavelytics is a 4-year-old product. And so I think of it as a toddler. It's growing up and getting parts still, getting functionality added on. So a lot of what we do actually lives in our back-end database. You can see certain things in our front end and they're visualized a certain way, but there's always going to be a question of more. So, like, for example, we do time dials, and it will show you, how long this judge takes to go to trial, or how long what's their average case length. And I can see someone looking at that and saying, well, how fast are they in this specific kind of case? And, how long have they taken in this kind of case? So in those sorts of situations where it's not actually available on our website, you can always reach out to us, and I'll actually have one of our data scientists look in our database for the information you're looking for. So one request we got from a client was they were trying to understand if this firm that they were coming up against was particularly litigious or not, or do they settle out of court. And so what we were able to do was pull all the records of where that firm had appeared in our database over the last 10 years, and then look for if there were any trials in those cases, and if there were any MSJs filed in those cases. We were able to find that there were no trials in any of those cases over the last 10 years, and they'd only filed about 2 MSJs also over the last 10 years. So from that assertion, you can say that, this firm doesn't litigate very often, they settle. And so that helps them build their strategy and helps them understand how they should handle this firm when they come to negotiating with them. So we do things like that all the time, where we're cross-referencing some information as far as how judges are ruling, or what sorts of motions are appearing, with which law firms are appearing. And based upon those things, you can kind of establish a relationship, which kind of informs how you should act. So we do that all the time for our clients. That's completely free, just as a courtesy of the service. So yeah, for sure, folks can leverage our database in tons of different ways outside of just the product.
I think that definitely sums up the power of this kind of technology.
Yeah, for sure. Just making smart decisions is what I think. That's what we all get hired for.
Thanks for listening to the Legal Mastermind podcast. If you're interested in working with Ryan and Chase, please email mastermind@marketmymarket.com. Make sure to join the free mastermind group for growing and managing your firm at lawfirmmastermind.com. Ryan Klein and Chase Williams are the managing partners at Market My Market, one of the top legal marketing companies in the United States.